Greetings, my cemetery seminarians. It's time for the wake. Now, each week I pop open a beer, but I got this one, right? It's a German smoked beer. And it's not Mars, which is like Oktoberfest. But I got my my popper. My nephew's a mechanic. He got me this. And the thing is, it's a 5/8. If it was only a 10 millimeter, God knows we lose them all the time. So, what did you think of tonight's movie? I love this movie. So, ooh, I'm going to spill it on myself. All right. So, The Reanimator, right? I saw this way. Uh-oh. I'm having problems with my internet here. Let me check. So I saw this back in like 84, 85, right? And, am I blurring out? Okay, good. I'm working. All right. So, in the Philadelphia area, right? Not everybody had like cable. So what they did was this channel 57, a UHF channel, right? Kids out there, it's like, it's what Fox and CW is now, right? But what they did is they had this TV station in Philly called Prism, right? Philadelphia Regional, something. It was a sports network and it had movies, right? Sort of like you guys up in New York, you have the Yes Network, the Yankees Entertainment Network, right? So, but they would show it, it'd be all scrambled, right? So you're watching, but you gotta like watch it like that. But if you got a paper clip, I went to school like I was actually out of college, right? But buddies of mine were going to Drexel University, which is a big engineering university, right? Now they were all business, right? But this one guy was an engineering guy, and what he did is if you took a paper clip and you wrapped it around the where the antenna comes in. Back in the old days, you had the antenna, rabbit ears, right? You wrap it around that, right, and you can actually de-scramble the TV, right, where you can actually see it. So we're sitting there. It was a Friday night. We all poured back into the apartment, right? There was like four guys that lived there, right? And then like there was the rest of us who didn't live there, but were there all the time, right? We come pouring back into the apartment after having way too many tequilas. And their buddy comes up, sets the TV up, and pops on Reanimator. And I swear to God, right? 2 o'clock in the morning, you have 6 guys, right? And a couple girls, because one of the guys had his girl, well, 2 of the guys had their girlfriends over, and there's one girl, Claudia, right, who was like our like group friend. She always came out and hang out with us, right? We're sitting there watching this movie, right, at 2 o'clock in the morning and just laughing our heads off, right? Now, I've always been into horror movies. I'm not really into the gory movies. I like more science fiction kind of stuff. The doc, he likes the gory stuff, right? But we had a blast watching that. And like I said, that was the first time I remember watching that movie. And, it stuck with me. So when Bride of the Reanimator came out, so this is probably like around 89, right? We were out of college, right? And we're over at my one friend, because we had to graduate college, right? Everybody either moves back home, gets married, right? Or gets their own apartment, right? Well, in our crowd, the one guy had his own apartment, and this guy Pat, and we went over to his house, and we watched Bride of the Reanimator, and we laughed again, like hysterically. And that's the whole idea, right? When you watch good horror films, right? And this is like a horror comedy, right? Because it just poked fun at so many other horror movies, like zombie movies, right? Frankenstein, right? It took in a bunch of the different movies, right? And it was great. Now, the movie was based off an H. Lovecraft movie, right? Or H. Lovecraft book. Now, we were talking about it last night. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was I think it was 1888, 1890, something like that, when she wrote Frankenstein, right? And first of all, for a chick to write a book that sold back in the 1800s, right, that was a huge deal. And she was great. I mean, read the original Frankenstein. It's not like the 31 Frankenstein. Anyway, so Lovecraft wrote this story in 1922. But Frankenstein didn't come out to 31. So when I was talking with the doc, right, I didn't realize there was like, a 9-year gap in between the two. But Lovecraft did go to see Frankenstein at the movies, and he was not impressed, right? Now, granted, the Reanimator is sort of like not a reimagining, but a different way to look at bringing life back from dead bodies, okay? And it's sort of like Frankenstein. It's like a Frankenstein zombie, and I'll say that 1,000 times because I thought it was really good, right? But for Lovecraft not to like the Frankenstein movie compared to how he wrote the Reanimator, right? I get it, right? Because the Reanimator basically you're taking a body that's already put together and you're bringing it back, right? Now, with the cats, as you can tell, the Doc and I are not cat fans, and yet the Doc has like 4 cats. Mrs. Dredd loves cats, right? While we were doing the shooting for the movie, right? One of the Doc's cats is this big, like Garfield-looking, weight-wise, like a gray and white cat, and the cat starts crawling on him as we're taping, and he is trying to keep it without totally breaking out laughing, right? And the cat's literally clawing on him, right? And it's the cat getting even for all the jokes we were throwing on the cats. And it just, to me, it's just funny. I thought it was hysterical. So we had Jeffrey Combs, right, in the Reanimator, right? And I'm really bumming because he, now, in our area, right, they got the theater called Colonial, what Blobfest is. They actually have a 24-hour horror fest going on this weekend, right? I can't make it because I'm doing this and other things. We'll talk about that later on, right? But they had a night with Jeffrey Combs. Now, they had it here. It was in Baltimore. It was in New York. I mean, he did a whole country tour where they showed Reanimator. And I'm so pissed because it was the night before I was going on vacation, right? And I was busy packing. And if I had just did everything ahead of time, I would have gone and seen it. A lot of my friends from Delco Horror Haven went and saw it, right? Said he was fantastic. And for everybody I've spoken to about him, right? He's a regular guy. He's just like a regular guy who got lucky, and doing horror. And that was his thing, right? So he did, he did the Reanimator series, all 4 of them, which I have not seen the last 2. But I really want to watch House because that's about how the president gets reanimated. And I imagine, especially this week with the election, that'll be a great, great movie to watch, right? But I'm really bumming because everybody said that he was personable. He was really nice. Apparently, one of the guys that I know from Blobfest said that he went back in Phoenixville, where the Colonial is. There's like 30 bars, and afterwards he went back to the bar with a couple guys that helped him run the show, and he was signing everything. He was talking to everybody. really great personal kind of guy. And that's what I like, right? Especially with him, like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Wars fan, even though I did like the first trilogy, and that's the only trilogy that I consider in the whole Star Wars series. Even though they're Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, right? They were great. But we could talk about that another time. But I digress. Where was I? Oh, so I enjoy watching him in all the different roles he has on Star Trek. And it's funny because, so in Deep Space Nine, he was a Wayun, right? He was Wayun, which was like the Dominions, like, talking guy. He was a Ferengi, and he was really good as the Ferengi. It was just, and the thing is, when you look at, like, all the different costumes you can tell him by his lips, because he always has that. He's always like his lips are perched out, right? And he was great in that. Then he was in Deep Space Nine. He was in Voyager, and I forget what he was in Voyager, but he was, again, he was a bad guy alien. And then when he was in Enterprise, right, he was a Andorian, the blue people with the antennas, right? And it was just funny because he was actually, when you get to Kirk's era, the Andorians, there's kind of like they're fighting, right? But in the Enterprise era, which is the original anyway, he was an Andorian, and he kind of like helped the Earthlings, right? And he kept calling, because he's blue skin, he kept calling them pink skins. And it was just funny because the way he did it, every character he did, right, was completely different. And that's what I loved about it, right? Because the same guy playing all these different roles. Now, Star Trek is notorious for recycling a lot of their actors. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, right? But they recycled a ton of actors, right? And it just, it's cool because when you're watching it, right, you kind of see, oh, he was on the other guy, like John Schuck, right? John Schuck, who is, I can't think of anything else he's famous for except he was a robot in a movie. He was a robot in a like really short-lived syndicated comedy back in like the 80s, right? Anyway, and he was also Herman Munster when they redid the Munsters back in the 80s, right? And that really sucked. And but Lee Merriweather, who was the original Catwoman from Batman, and she was Miss America, she was Lily Munster. Now she was good looking, right? For, a green chick. But anyway, so like Jeffrey Combs, like everything he's in, he's fantastic, right? I'm surprised that he hasn't gotten a leading role in a sci-fi, like not just show, but maybe a movie. But so, and he's also supposed to be. So they're supposed to be doing another Star Trek, but it's going to be based off DS9, right? And it's supposed to be Cisco comes back from being in like the wormhole with the prophets, and Combs is supposed to have a role in it, a bigger role, and that would be great to watch because, again, he's a great actor, and when DS9 ended, you kind of like Cisco, the main character, gets sucked into the wormhole with the prophets, and all right, I can go on about that for hours, and you don't want to hear it. So, with the Reanimator, one of the big things I liked about it, especially at the end, and Doc brought it up, was when you had the Dr. Hill, the schmuck, that wanted to steal his work. He's walking around with like he's got his head in the bag, and he's walking around with it, and the head that he was wearing was actually like the mannequin head that he had, the mannequin head that had like half face and the brain, you could take it apart, on his desk, right? And I thought that was hysterical because the guard's busy watching boudoir magazine and smoking at work. All right, kids today, we used to do that at work. We used to smoke at work. And, right, where I went to high school, right, we had a smoking area. And, right, I had priests. I went to a Catholic school because if I went to the public school, I'd be in jail right now because I was that kind of kid. The priest used to smoke. And I had this one priest, Father Carney, God bless him. He was a great priest, right? He would sit and he would smoke cigars in class. Smoked a cigar every class. He taught 8 classes a day. And think, he died of lung cancer. Who would have thought, right? And he would, it's funny, when you smoke a cigar, you don't inhale it, right? He inhaled it. I smoke cigars, I don't inhale it, but I could just, I don't know how he didn't turn green. But he didn't smoke during Mass, which is kind of funny because we used to tease him about that. Do you smoke when you're doing Mass? He goes, I don't smoke when I'm dealing with the Lord. But, okay, so, things that are coming up, right? Next week we got Chud, right? Carnivorous, humanoid, underground dwellers. Another classic 70s or classic 80s movie, right? Now, Chud, I saw at the drive-in back in the day, right? And it was funny, when you go to the drive-in, if you went on your bicycle, it was $2.50. But if you went in a car, it was $5 a person. So me and a couple of my buddies, we would go on our bicycles. Even though we were 18, 19, on our bicycles. And my one buddy had a van, right? And he would pull in, and we'd sit outside the van and watch the movie, have a couple pops, right? And then at the end of the night, we'd throw all the bikes in the back of the van, and he would drive us home. But I remember watching Chud, and I think we talked about it, the doc and I talked about it, I think it was we saw Chud, Critters, and Mac and Me. Now, Mac and Me, right, they did it on Mystery Science Theater, they've done it on Riff Tracks, right? It sucks. It sucks so bad. And when they did it on Mystery Science Theater, they did it in like their 13th season, which was the season after Netflix, right? And I think Emily did it, right? And she's great. I met her at the Mystery Science Theater convention last year, and she's a sweetie pie, I swear to God. She's so cute. She's very funny, right? And she really, really, like, she doesn't have a big head, right, about what she does. And it's just funny because so many people were, like, trying to get her autograph and talk to her. And I think she was overwhelmed because she'd never been to, like, a Mystery Science convention where, like, you're actually in with the people instead of being up on stage the whole time. Anyway, so we got Chud coming out, right? Chud's a great movie, right? You'll get a kick out of it. And like the doc said, half the cast from Home Alone is in it, right? And when you're watching it, I could just imagine what the crossover would be with Chud and Home Alone, you know? And then, if you remember, in Home Alone 2, you had the homeless lady, right? That at the end, he brings her a gift, right? In Chud, the Chuds are eating the homeless people. So, I wonder if the reason why she wasn't in Home Alone 3 is because she got eaten by the Chuds. Just saying. Don't know. Alright? But we got a million other things coming up, right? So after Chud, we have, The Phantom of the Mall, which is a kind of a reimagining of Phantom of the Opera in an 80s mall with Morgan Fairchild, who's the heavy, right? And Pauly Shore, before Pauly Shore became like the idiot. Okay, now I remember Pauly Shore from MTV, and then he was in Encino Man, and he was in a surfer movie, right? and he sucked. I hated him. I hated him in all those movies and MTV. But in this movie, it was before he got that act, right? That bit, and he was actually pretty funny. I enjoyed it. So you'll get a kick out of the Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. And then after that, something that I've been working on, right? The doc, me, and the boss have been working on, is our Shorty Fest. We have 21 shorties, right? That I've picked up over the various film festivals in the area. It was the Media Film Festival, Westchester Film Festival, and the Delco Horror Haven Invasion Shorty Festival. So, and there's a bunch of great ones in there, and we actually had to cut other ones because we had like 30. I think we had 40, and then it got down to 31, and then we had to cut. Basically, when you're watching it, the doc and I aren't really doing a whole lot. We kind of like introduce the short, right? Talk maybe a second about it, and then go on to the next one. Because the idea is it's not about us, it's about the shorts, right? So we're going to have a poll. The doc and I, we put out what we thought was the best one, right? And then we're going to put out a poll, and we want you guys to nominate the best one, and we're going to give those guys an award. If you ever watch like a lot of these movies, you go to Movie Fest, they have like a little, it looks like a, oh God, it's a leafy crown with like in it, won this film fest, won that film fest, and we want to help those guys and help them advertise, right? So we got that coming up, and then December we have a handful of movies, right? We got Cyborg 2087, great classic movie. The doc did a review on it, so if you go in. Look at Dr. Dredd reviews on his YouTube channel. You'll get to see that. It was funny when the boss gave it to us, right? It was actually a week after Doc had reviewed it, which was kind of funny, And then we have, oh my goodness. We have, Santa Claus versus the Martians. I'm personally waiting for that. It's one of those movies you'll love to hate because it's so bad, right? But it's got Pia Zadora, it's got a Mickey Rooney ripoff, right? And it's one of those fun movies that every year, every horror host has hosted this movie. Misty, right? Elvira, Dr. Shock in the day, The Ghoul, I think The Mummy and the Monkey did it. They're out of Cleveland, right? And they were, it's a classic bad movie, and I think it's been public domain since like the day after it aired, right? Because it's just, you guys will love it because you'll laugh. I laughed every time I watch it, okay? And then in January, right, we have Creepshow, but it's not the Creepshow from HBO. It's Creepshow. It's a movie from '74, and it has it has a bunch of vignettes, right? You guys will enjoy that, right? And then there's Alligator, right? Which I think I'm going to be. So Creepshow, how it's going to work in January is we have 4 movies. And the doc's going to do Creepshow by himself, right? Like he did The Creeper back in August, right? And then I think I'm going to do Alligator by myself, right? Mainly because I love that movie. It's just so bad, and it's funny. Back in the day, I went up to New York one time when I was a kid, and they literally sold the little Cayman alligators in these little fish bowls, right? And everybody, you take them home, right? Because they're only like this big, right? This big. But then they get to be like, 3 foot long, because caimans are tiny alligators, but alligators are huge, right? And kids would bring them home, their parents say, you can't keep that, it's going to get too big, and they'd flush it down the toilet. Well, it's the story of what happened when the gator got flushed down the toilet, right? being from Darby, I'm used to dealing with sewers, so I think I'm going to do that one, right? Then we have Rabid Grannies. I have no idea what that's about, but I can't wait to watch it. Now, you know, with the way we watch the movies, right? The Doc and I, I'm going to be watching them probably like Monday or Tuesday this week, and then we're going to get together and we're going to do our films, right? Do our sketches and stuff, right? But Rabid Grannies, Johnny Rios, how did you get that movie? Where did that come from? You know, it's hysterical, you know. So what am I doing, right? You don't care, right? But no, well, tomorrow I'm going to, it's Monster Mania, right? It's a convention, and Gina Davis was supposed to be there, but apparently she's stuck in New Mexico with a snowstorm. It snows in New Mexico, and I love Gina Davis. Like, she was in The Fly, right? She was in the movie about the chick baseball players, but she was in a movie where she was a pirate, right? And I forget the name of the movie. She was great. One, because, all right, Helga's not here. She's really hot. She's a big redhead, you know. And in the movie, she was great. I mean, apparently it was one of those, her dad was the captain, he died, she took over the ship and all, but the great pirate movie. And, right, she was an archer. She was an Olympic class archer, right? And I think it was the 96 Olympics, whatever one was in Atlanta, right? She missed making the Olympics by like 2 points or something, right? So what happened was, after she missed it, she was on David Letterman, right? And they had, like, literally out in the street in front of Rockefeller Center, wherever he filmed from, and she was shooting, and she was blowing, I mean, she shot, now, it wasn't on a real guy, it was a mannequin's head. Shot an apple in a guy's head, right? And then, she shot like a pumpkin and went straight through the pumpkin into another pumpkin, right? That's Gina Davis. So I'm looking forward to seeing her tomorrow, right? But she's stuck in New Mexico because of a snowstorm, right? But like I do when I go to these conventions, right? I'll get a ton of interviews. I'll interview people, I'll talk to people, get vendors and all that. And I hope you enjoyed the interview I did. So I went to this one convention called Delco Horror Haven Invasion, right? And they had all these vendors, and I walked by this lady, right? And you saw her, right? She should be in a Mad Max movie, right? She's one tough chick, right? Spooky Bitch is her name. And when I called her, I said, "What's your real name?" It's Stacy, right? I said, "Can I call you that?" She goes, "No, I'm Spooky Bitch. You can call me Spooky Bitch." But she was great. She's a hoot, and she's a great FX artist, right? So she's done a handful of projects. She doesn't call them movies, calls them projects, right? And she actually did a thing for Delco Horror Haven where she did a clinic where she taught you how to do it, and you actually left with a little kit on how to do it. I'm bumming I couldn't make it. Delco Horror Haven has way too many events, right? So, tomorrow I'm going to Monster Mania. Then after Monster Mania, I'm going to a Delco Horror Haven event called Crickfoot. I have no idea what it's about. I know the Doc saw it not too long ago up in his area, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Plus, I like hanging out with the ladies from Delco Horror Haven. They're hysterical, and it's fun. And what's going to be really cool is I'm a big rugby guy, right? So Widener Rugby, because the movie's going to be at Widener University, one of the major universities down here in Pennsylvania. They're in the rugby champion. They're in the rugby finals for college, right? So I'm going to go watch them for a little bit. Then I'm going to head over and watch the movie. So I got a full day. Monster Mania, right? Rugby, a horror movie with Delco Horror. My day's set. Helga gets the whole day to herself. She ain't got to deal with me. Right? Good for her. Now, what's coming up with the channel, with other things, right? So, I'm going to set up a Printify or Shopify, one of those accounts, and we're going to have a Cemetery Cinema, shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff, right? And, pardon me, not like a smoked beer. And then the Doc and I have some stuff with our logos on it. I think I attached my shop to this video, so if you get a chance to see it, I have like all my logos on it. I have all my logos that I have now, and then I have a couple of my legacy logos that I had from years ago on it. So you guys will get it. If you want to get Christmas gift, right? Get your favorite seminarian a gift. Bang, there you go. You want to get your favorite Darbarian a gift? Bang, there you go. You want to get your favorite gift for a patient of Dr. Dread? Bang, there you go. Right? All kinds of great stuff you can find on there. Now, where do I have one? Yeah, here we go. Ugh. So, this is one of the mugs, right, I have for Darbarian. Right now, it's for my home brewery, because I'm a home brewer. Oh, my goodness. Right? And then I actually have, this was my fantasy football team, the Arkham Darbarians. Arkham from H.P. Lovecraft, right? Up in Arkham, Mass. And then Darbarians, because Darbarians, right? So, you know, we're gonna have all that kind of stuff out there. And guys, you know, we're gonna put them at whatever the cost is. We're not looking to make money on it yet. Right? Not looking to make money on it now, but we want to be able to get it out there. So you guys, you know, you want to pick something up, some kind of memorabilia that we're on, go for it, right? And it'd be great Christmas gifts. And God knows I'm going to be buying a bunch of stickers for me. Yeah, that's about it. So, I'm glad you guys are sticking with us, right? I can't believe we're 6 months in. This was our 26th show, right? Who thought that? And the Doc and the boss and I were going back on a chat about a week ago. He's figuring by this time next year, we could be close to like 75, right? 52 weeks in a year, right? And no, we'll be close to 100, excuse me. Because we get 52 weeks in a year, and every other month we do an extra show. That's why we had like a double feature, right? So, you know, we're growing thanks to people like you who are bored to death, who want to watch two overweight, you know, two overweight guys who like to watch horror movies. One dresses like a doctor with a fez. One dresses like a Viking biker. And a match made in heaven, I guess, right? So, listen, I am extremely glad you guys hung out, right? We got about 7 or 8 people out there watching right now. Oh, and before I forget, Christopher Van Bross, your mom passed away this week. My prayers are with you and your family. My mom passed away a couple years ago, and I know it sucks. But I hope you're doing okay, right? And if I ever get a chance to see you with the Doc at any of the monster conventions, right, I'm buying you beer right off the bat, okay? So, Mad Darbarian, I've gabbed at you for, 40 minutes already. Who knew I could talk that long? But, right? Oh, and before I forget, Monday is Veterans Day. Sunday is the Marine Corps birthday, Semper Fi, brothers, right? And on Monday is Veterans Day. So do me a favor, right? Be respectful on Veterans Day, right? If you get a chance, I'm going to a Veterans Breakfast. Our Scouting Council holds a Veterans Breakfast every year. I'm going to go on Monday. And it's a wonderful event honoring a lot of our veterans. On Veterans Day, I always think of my uncle who died at D-Day, my other two uncles, who served in the Army, one during Korea, one during World War II. And then I remember my father-in-law, World War II Marine vet, Korean War Marine vet, right? Right. One of those kick-ass guys out there, right? God bless him. He passed away a couple years ago at 90. And so Veterans Day, I go to salute the veterans and to salute those guys, Uncle Charlie, Uncle Jimmy, Uncle George, and Pops, So salute, guys, right? Thank you for your service. If anybody out there served in the military, thank you for your service, right? And you get a chance, right? Go out, have a couple pops. Every place is giving you guys free meals. And I remember my one cousin on Veterans Day, he goes, I put on 10 pounds because he hits every place that gives you a free meal. Well deserved, right? Because hey, you served in the military, right? You put your life on the line. All right. Cheers. So Mad Darbarian out. Chindan, cheers, Prost, and Slancha. Thank you, veterans. God damn, that's good beer. Mad Darbarian out. Boop.